Well, good evening and praise the Lord, everybody. I'm so glad that you decided to join us today. I encourage you at this time to like, to share with all of your friends because we have the Christian dietitian with us today, and she is going to share some great information for us to stay healthy. um, so often we focus on our spirits, but Paul said in First Thessalonians, he said, the Lord sanctify you wholly, body, soul, and spirit. And so we don't want to only focus on our spirit, not only focus on our soul, but let's focus on improving our body and our health as well. Tonight, Ms. Blackbird, she has a lot of great information for us, things to help build our immune systems, sleep. For those who may have issues sleeping, she's going to talk about that, talk about foods that help with hypertension, hyperglycemia, all of the things that we hear so much about. And so we're going to start off with a word of prayer, and then I'll pass it over to Chelsea so that way she can knock it out the park. All right, let's go before the throne. Father, we thank you. We glorify you and we honor you. There is no one like you. Lord, we need you to forgive us of sin, iniquity. God, honestly, we know that there's something that we've done that you haven't been pleased with, something that we've said that you didn't like. And so, Lord, whatever it was, action, whether it was something that we spoke, something that we thought, no matter what it was, we need you to forgive us. Lord, would you be with us tonight? And oh God, allow us to absorb the information that Chelsea's going to share with us tonight. And we'll be careful to give your name the glory, we'll give you the honor, and we'll give you the praise. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. Amen.
Amen.
So, Chelsea, why don't you go ahead and start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Chelsea Blackbird. I'm the Christian nutritionist. I am so delighted to be with you here tonight. I wish that uh, the body of Christ would be more in tune and focused on, the health of their holy temple, because we carry a very precious, treasure inside of us, which is the Holy Spirit. And so, my goal is to help Christians just be healthy in body so that we can get out into the world and be everything God created us to be the hands and feet of Jesus. Because when we feel well, we serve well. And so I really came to health and nutrition through my own personal problems, which a lot of us do. I struggled with some pretty serious digestive issues a lot of my life, the first half of my life. I have a genetic skin condition that I spent 20 years with doctors, um, every kind of medication, cream, just treatment, surgery, didn't work. I was diagnosed with unexplained infertility. So I had all of these things going on in my own life. And with each one, I just kind of got to the point where I was hitting a brick wall, and the doctors were kind of at a point where they really couldn't do much more for me. None of them ever asked me, hey, what are you eating? What's your diet like? Do you get enough water? And so, out of desperation at that time, I started researching, like, what can I do? Is there something I can do? And I found that changing some things in your diet, taking some things out, adding some things, paying attention to this and that can really make big changes. And so that's what I did. I started changing my diet, and sure enough, my digestive issues settled. My genetic skin condition went away. I managed it through diet only, and I was able to conceive within 6 weeks of really buckling down and changing my diet and just getting more in tune with my body. And to me, these were all miracles. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. This is amazing. And then I just thought, why don't more people know this? Everybody should know this. And so I went back to nutrition school. And really, at the time, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just wanted the knowledge. I was reading so many books. It was a passion. And I thought, well, I could probably get certified doing this. And so I went through a certification program, really focused on holistic health. And I didn't know what I would do with it. I thought, well, at a minimum, I can help my friends and family. But wisdom when I learned everything that I learned, and considering my own personal experience, I was like, I cannot keep this to myself. That would just be wrong. And so I started sharing and helping people, and I just felt God calling me to bring him into it. And really, every time I would get into the Bible and read scripture, every verse to me had to do with nutrition. God put this lens over my eyeballs, and every time I was reading the Bible, I was like, oh, that reminds me of this, and this reminds me of that. And so he was calling me hard, and I was a little resistant, but I came around, and now it's what I do, and it is absolutely so rewarding and wonderful. And so I'm truly glad to be here with you today.
That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. Honestly, I didn't even know that there was nutrition in school. You learn something new every day. That's pretty good.
Yes, sure thing.
Wow. Well, so Chelsea, we're in this pandemic, and COVID-19 is still running rampant. It's unfortunate that, so many people have lost their lives to this disease. But talk to us a little bit about how to build our immune systems, because we're finding, they were saying that, those people that are not in those high risk groups, while they can contract this infirmity, their bodies are better equipped to fight it off. So how can we make sure that we're building our bodies up to fight?
Absolutely. Well, there are several components we want to think about. We absolutely want to think about food, and with that, water, just pure hydration. We want to think about sleep, and we want to think about stress. I would say those are three biggies that we want to be really managing for our health, for immune system, and just across the board. Okay, so when we're talking about our immune system, we want to build it up, but we also want to remove those things that suppress it, that make us more vulnerable by dragging our immune system down. And so it's all of these things we're talking about. So with food, we want to be really focusing on real food the way God made it. And that is my approach to everything, and it's going to be an underlying thing of everything we talk about today. I think that in the world, there is so much conflicting advice about how to eat. It can be very confusing. One person will tell you this, one person will tell you that. And so part of what brought me here as the Christian nutritionist is just to really look into what God has provided. I mean, he is the creator of our body, and he created the perfect foods for our body. So he is the master nutritionist. True. And so when we look in the Bible, we see that, in Genesis 1:29, we're given plant foods. In Genesis 9:3, we're given animal foods. And it's truly this nice blend of plant and animal foods, really nice, clean plant and animal foods that boost up our best health. Plant foods, vegetables and fruits, they kind of have their strengths about what they offer us. And then the animal source foods have their strengths about what they offer us, different vitamins and minerals and healthy fats, nutrients, fiber, that kind of thing. And so specifically for building the immune system, we want to focus on some good plant foods with vitamin C. And so, citrus fruits are wonderful. Like bell peppers are wonderful. Leafy greens are wonderful with some good nutrients. And we also want to focus on zinc. Now, zinc is one of those nutrients that's in both plant and animal foods. So like pumpkin seeds would have some zinc, but also some good animal sourced food like beef would be very high in zinc. And so it's really just that mix of getting those plant and animal foods that are going to be give us the best bang for our buck when it comes to delivering nutrients that build up our cells, build us up on a cellular level, and build up our immunity, give our body everything it needs to be healthy and strong. If you think about it, that's our input. What we put into our body is what our bodies are made of. I think a lot of people are, kind of think about our bodies. Oh, we're born and we're made and we got our things, but our body's always regenerating and rebuilding itself. And your building materials are based on what you put in your body.
Now, Chelsea,
yes.
I have a question for you. We actually have two questions. The
Sure.
first question goes back to something that you said a moment ago when you said, eat the food the way God intended or the way God made us. I want to talk, I want you to expand a little bit more about that.
Okay.
And then, so I recently was told that beef is bad for you. Red meat is bad for you. So talk to me some more about that as well.
Okay, sure. So this is so good that we're talking about this, because this is exactly what's out there. Okay, so when I talk about real food the way God made it, generally what I just want to use for our compass is when it comes to what we eat, what he provided in nature is going to always be our best bet. Vegetables, fruits that grow in nature, the animal source foods that he's given us. He gave us all of the animal source foods, and the cleaner that the cleaner intake, when we buy the healthiest sources that we can of each of those foods, then that's going to be best for our bodies. I don't know, is that answering your question, or is there something more that I'm missing there?
No. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So you're telling me to stay away from all of my box foods, that I got to cut out all that processed food.
That's not real food the way God made it.
I got you. Now, when it comes to the meat, are you also saying that try to get it as lean as possible, or what all do you mean there?
Okay, well, what you really want to do with meat is, if at all possible, and this is different for everybody because, it depends on your budget, depends on what's available to you. Absolutely. I live in a really small country, little town in Texas, and so we don't have big grocery stores and such. But what you want to look for is when you buy an animal source food, you want that animal to have eaten its God-given diet, right? The food that God made for it to have. And then when it is given its God-given diet, it can pass on wonderful nutrients to us. So animals eat from the earth, right? The earth nourishes the animal nourishes us. It's this beautiful design by our Creator. Unfortunately, where some of this comes in, like meat is unhealthy, is that, in modern times, like beef, let's say beef, for instance, cattle are taken to a feedlot, they're fed corn, they're fed soy, they're fed a lot of things that they wouldn't naturally eat. They're really supposed to eat grass. That's how God made it. And they turn grass into these amazing nutrients, that vitamins and minerals and really important fatty acids that our body can use. So the closer the animal stays to its diet, then the more we're going to be able to get out of that nutrient wise. And so we're looking for things like cattle, beef that is grass fed, grass finished, cattle that ate grass, chickens that got to roam, and chickens that roamed on pasture and eat little seeds and worms and things that they're supposed to eat. Fish that are wild caught, as opposed to a farmed fish that is in a pen that eats corn and soy. I don't know, last time you checked, there's not a lot of corn and soy naturally floating in the ocean or the lakes. And so that is not their natural diet. And that does have some effect on the way that their bodies take that. It's not their healthiest self. Okay. And so when we can look for those terms, grass-fed, pasture, wild caught, when we're buying our animal source foods, that is really the best to go for if you can find it, if it's in your budget. Okay. Does that help?
It does. Okay. Did I cut you off asking my question? Because it seemed like you had some more to talk about there before I asked.
Oh, I'm not sure. There's a lot I can talk about here. So, well, I'm trying to think where I was. So that with the meat. And so it's one thing I don't want people to be afraid of is having healthy fat in the diet. I think a lot of us are afraid. It was ingrained in us for so long that fats are bad, don't eat fat. That tide has turned a little bit. And people are getting a more understanding. But I can remember a long time ago when I was studying nutrition, a long time ago, and I remember reading that like fats are bad for you. Avocados, don't eat avocados. They're bad for you. And I remember thinking, now, wait a minute. Avocados grow in a tree. God made trees. Why would that be bad for me? And that was one of the things that really jiggled my brain to get me where I am today. Like, if we eat food God made, it's all going to be okay. And so, healthy plant fats would be like avocados and olives and olive oil and coconut oil. But then you also have your healthy fats that come from animal source foods, the natural byproduct of maybe cattle or chicken or like a fatty fish like salmon or something like that. And the closer, like I said, they eat to their diet, there are important nutrients, fatty acids that our bodies use to make every cell in our body. Every cell is made, the cell membranes are made from fatty acids. We need really nice, healthy fatty acids to do that. And so fat's not a bad thing. Fat doesn't make you fat. It's your overall diet and how you approach it that's going to manage your health and your weight.
Okay. Now, do some of those healthy fats, do they help to build our immune system, or are those part of the things that help to not suppress our immune system?
All of the above. So this, the body works as a holistic system. We can't break apart pieces, in the kind of in conventional medicine, we want to like, oh, I went to the heart doctor, or I went to the gastroenterologist, the gut doctor, or I went to the endocrinologist for my hormones, or I went to the joint doctor for my joint pain. And we want to separate those out. But really, the body works as a holistic system. And so the food goes in, it nourishes every cell in our body, creates the cells. And as I was saying, our bodies are constantly regenerating. And so the food that we're putting in is either building us up or tearing us down on the insides. And a lot of people, depending on their genetics, kind of where your weakest link is genetically is where your ill health's going to hit you. So depending on, if, like for me, so, the way that my diet was back in the day, it was not great. I ate way more processed foods than I should have, a lot of sugar. And so my genetic weak link was my skin, because that's what we have in our family. We also have heart issues in our family. And so that is where it hit me. I saw it in my skin. I saw the problems there. If you're a person with history of joint issues in your family, migraines, diabetes, it's gonna manifest in that way. And so we have to really look at things from a cellular level and how we're building the body. And so when it comes to the immune system, it's the exact same way. Our immune system is really tied to our gut health. About 80% of our immune system lies in our gut. And so it's really making sure that your digestive system's working properly, that your ability to absorb nutrients, vitamins and minerals and fiber and fatty acids and proteins is all working well. And that's going to be the key nutritionally to building immune. But we also got to talk about sleep and stress and that kind of thing.
Okay. Because and hopefully we don't run out of time, but I also was thinking about something else, and it's the moderation, how to eat all of these things in moderation, because I don't know much about moderation. When I eat, I like to eat until I can't eat anymore. And from my understanding, that's why my pants sizes are getting larger and larger and larger. And
right.
So talk to us about moderation.
Okay. Well, here's the thing that I like to teach people. And I created a whole program around this, because here's where I saw people struggling, is that a lot of people want to go into, this idea like, I have to eat perfectly all the time. And, that's not sustainable, because we're never going to eat perfectly all the time. And so people try to eat really, really good, and like, I can't do it. And so then they go back to their old ways, and it creates this kind of yo-yo dieting effect. And what I like to remind people is, if we can eat well most of the time, our body can handle some of the time when we're not eating the perfect foods, And so that's kind of how we can build in some of that grace. I think the more you deprive yourself and say, I can't ever have cookies again, is when you want all the cookies, right? You want to eat all of them. And so really it's a matter of taking it day by day, looking at your plate and saying, okay, do I have a kind of nice healthy mix of proteins, so some animal source foods, some vegetables, or any green, there's some color on my plate, and maybe, a healthy starch, potato, sweet potato, maybe some kind of grains or something like, a little small portion of grains, something like that, quinoa or rice, that's all fine. And it's just a matter of looking at that plate and saying, do I have enough balance most of the time there? And then if I want a cookie for dessert, some ice cream, your body can handle that, but you got to have that good foundation. That is critical, to have that good foundation.
Okay. Okay, so I didn't hear you mention like mashed potatoes and gravy and macaroni and cheese and stuff like that.
well, that would be, there's foods that I call them heck yeahs. Like those foods
You call them what now?
I call them heck yeahs. So there's certain foods that aren't really good for you, but that you love. You have to be very discerning about that. Can't have all of the things in the world, but I mean, there are just certain things, like if macaroni and cheese is a heck yeah for you, great. Put that on your list of things that I'm going to allow myself, sometimes, because I'm eating well most of the time. But, a lot of people they walk into, I think a lot of us at the church are the worst. We'll walk into a potluck and it's like every dish in the world that's, overly too many carbohydrates and starchies and processed and made with not the healthiest ingredients. So we're kind of bad about that. And, the thing is that we just kind of fill our plates a lot of the time without discerning it. Like, do you really, really like that? I mean, is it really, really worth it to you? Or going in work and going into the break room and just mindlessly eating the donut or the cookies, or, just bringing a little presence and awareness to what we're doing, and making sure that when you do eat something, it makes you say, heck yeah, I love that. It is really, really worth it. And, there's all these little tips and techniques I try to teach people, because this is a hard one. This is a hard one to really find that way that is sustainable, where you're honoring your body with healthy foods that God made, but also give yourself a little grace. You got to find that place where real food meets real life. And that's kind of the happy place that we want to find. And that's going to be a little different for each person, depending on what's worth it to you to bring in.
Love that. I love that. Real food meets real life. And you've got to marry the two.
Yes.
Because I am one of those people. Water and I, we have a love-hate relationship.
Water?
Water. Yeah. So there was a time where I drank nothing but water, and I would literally have other people at the table. They would just get irritated at me. How we go out to eat and you just order water. But I just drank water. And then I was helping my parents move. Well, I was moving with them. I was living with my parents at the time, and we were moving. And in the move, I got a Pepsi. And I was addicted ever since. I was drinking soda after soda, and I've tried to come back to the place where all I'm drinking and consuming is water, and it's hard. But most recently, Water and I, we've had a thing again. We started to rendezvous again.
You're dating. You're dating.
Yeah, we're dating. Haven't figured out whether I'm committed to her or not, but we are dating.
Well, pardon me for interrupting. This is kind of a good time when it comes to water, what we really want to shoot for is a daily goal of what you do is you take your body weight, you divide it in half.
Okay.
Whatever that is the amount of ounces of water that you want to shoot for a day. It's kind of a good general goal.
I was going to ask you that before we were finished tonight, because, you have what everybody says the golden rule of water is, what is it? 8-ounce glasses, so 64 ounces a day. But I've heard other people also say what you said about the halfway of your body weight. And so, you agree with that principle?
Sure. Yeah. Yes.
I was just going to ask, is there any particular logic or science behind it?
I couldn't tell you the exact science behind it. It's just kind of a nice rule of thumb, a general rule of thumb. It's not an exact for each person, but it's a good goal to shoot for.
Okay.
If somebody is exercising a lot. If somebody works outdoors in the heat, has a very demanding job, they're going to need more. If you're drinking a lot of dehydrating drinks like coffee or caffeine drinks, things that just because it's a liquid does not mean it's hydrating. I think a lot of people are under that disillusion that I'm got liquids going in here, it's hydrating, but that's not true. Do you want your cells to be made of Pepsi? Probably not. Think of it that way. They need really clean water. And again, the body can handle some of these things some of the time. It just can't be your primary form. So many people are dehydrated, and that is the number one nutritional deficiency is water, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So I'm going to try to do better with my water intake.
Set that up.
Yeah. So now let's go to the next topic that we decided on about sleep, because I know quite a few people who are dealing with sleep issues. They're taking over-the-counter sleep aids, prescription sleep aids, different things like that, and they're having sleep issues. What are some foods that will assist our sleep and a healthy sleeping life?
Okay. Well, the first thing about sleep is you got to consider what you're already eating that could be taking away from sleep. That's what I find with most people.
Okay.
Too many processed sugary foods, too many carbohydrates in general. Carbohydrates would include everything from vegetables and fruits, which are, really God's carbohydrates, to your oatmeal, your beans, your rice, to cookies and donuts and pancakes and muffins. All of those are carbohydrates. And so when we have too many of those in our diet in relation to proteins and healthy fats, when there's way too many carbs, that's what messes up our blood sugar. So I'm going to be kind of answering some of your questions all at once. Again, it's a holistic system. And so it's one thing affects the other. But when there's this blood sugar dysregulation, I always do this because it's kind of like a roller coaster. When you're eating too many carbohydrates, your body kind of crashes and peaks with its energy. And what can happen in the middle of the night is if you've had too many carbohydrates, you crash. You crash in the middle of the night, your blood sugar, it wakes you up. It's one of the most common reasons people wake up in the middle of the night, 2 or 3. They don't really know why, but they do. And so that is something that you really want to make sure you're doing, is balancing your blood sugar by eating well during the day, making sure that plate has good proteins and healthy fats, that nice balance of the macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbs, so that your blood sugar stays steady so it doesn't wake you up in the middle of the night. Anything that is, caffeine to, much after noon is going to keep you up. Again, the processed sugar, some of these like food dyes, for example, can make your brain kind of hyperactive. All of these things just really work against you. So you want to remove these things that work against your sleep. And then just that nice balance of the proteins, fats, and carbs is the way that you're going to help yourself sleep. Now, there are certain foods like cherries are good for helping you sleep. Some nuts can be good for, walnuts are good for helping you sleep. There's things like that. A nice tea, a warm tea at night can be good for helping you sleep, like a chamomile tea would be like a really nice calming thing to help you relax and get into sleep. But the key is really balancing that blood sugar so your body is not, crashing in the middle of the night and doesn't have its ability to maintain its energy well.
That's actually very interesting. I knew that there were sleep-inducing foods, but I did not know that the regulation of your diet, your normal diet, also impacted your sleep schedule.
It does. It's one of the, when I work with people, there's a series of questions we ask, and one is them, if you're getting up in the middle of the night, kind of regularly around 2 or 3, that's a good indication of a blood sugar dysregulation. And so that's one of the things that we want to address, is getting that blood sugar balanced. But I also want to speak to the importance of sleep. As we were talking about the immune system, in general, your whole body detoxifies and resets itself when you're sleeping. That's what it does during the night. You go to bed and your body comes alive, and all these mechanisms come alive, and your hormones are resetting, and your brain is kind of dumping out some of its junk, and it's drawing up the toxins to be released in the morning, and your body is doing all of these wonderful things, resetting, getting things ready to go. And so when you don't get enough sleep, you're missing out on your detoxification time, your resetting time, and it will really, really, it's a stressor on the body. And so any kind of time we're stressing the body, no matter what the format of that is or why we're being stressed, it's going to drag down the immune system. And so, getting to a really good, healthy sleep routine, going to bed at a decent time every night. Really the prime time detox hours are between like 10 and 2 a.m. Most people are in bed by 10, but really trying to get in bed. Turn off Netflix and get in bed. you got to do it.
Did you say that most people are in bed by 10?
No.
Oh, I was just about to say, I know our people are not.
No, most people are not in bed by 10. And so I just, I advise, just think of that as, man, that should be at least something I'm striving toward. And if you get even, if it makes you back up even to getting in bed and falling asleep at 11, that would be better than midnight or 1. Start your sleep routine a little bit earlier if it takes you a little longer to get to sleep. But you definitely want to be making sure that you're doing that. The whole stress thing, with stress, we know that our stress hormone is cortisol, right? A lot of us are aware of that. When we're really stressed, our body's pumping out a lot of cortisol. If there's a lot of cortisol pumping out in the body, it will suppress your body's ability to make melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. And so, again, it's why, all of these things work together. You can't just have one, you could be eating a beautiful diet, but if you're not sleeping well, or if you're not managing your stress, one's going to throw off the other. They all really work together.
Okay. That actually makes a whole lot of sense. Let me ask you a question about, and this is going to segue us into the weight loss aspect, but eating before you go to bed. Approximately, what's that gap? What's that time gap?
What's the ideal window?
Yes.
Like kind of before, okay. It is better to not eat too close to bed. I would say give that about 2 hours if you can. And here's why. When you eat too close to bed, the body is really busy digesting. And so if you eat too close to bed, the body's got to go through this whole digestive process. And what happens is when the body is focusing on digesting, it's not focusing on detoxing. So you're kind of stealing from your detox time, which is what's happening when we're sleeping, right? But if you eat too late, your body's really focusing on digestion, and it can't get its full cycle of detoxification and that whole resetting of your system. And so you want to back that up a little bit. If you go to bed at, I was going to say, if you go to bed at 9, but nobody goes to bed at 9, I would say, not eating much later than like 8. I would say at the latest about 8, if you can, as most nights, not every night again is going to be perfect. We just do the best we can. But if you can, kind of like, we're going to try to wrap it up by at least 8 every night. That's a good goal.
Okay. Now talk to us about some of those fat eating foods. Like I've heard that tomatoes are good foods to eat that will go in and eat your fat. It'll help you lose weight. I know that you have already talked to us so far about getting away from a lot of the processed foods, a lot of the sugary foods, a lot of the an array of different foods. And I know that when you were talking to us about them, you were talking to us about, immuno health and sleep and all those different things, but it will also contribute to weight loss. But just talk to us a little bit more about that.
Okay, 100%. So there's not a specific food that's going to go in and eat your fat. I wish it were like that.
Once you find it though, Chelsea, I need you to let me know, okay? Because then I'll be concerned.
Or I might be a billionaire. We'll figure that out. No, it's what it is. The best way, the healthiest way to lose weight is, it's going to sound boring, but you cannot get away from this, is to have a healthy mix of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. That is the key. Here's what I teach. Here's what I teach people. Where people get messed up, this is where people trip up, is, again, it's too many carbohydrates. And again, that's everything from your chips to your muffins and your pancakes, your tortillas, your beans, your quinoa, your rice, there's so many carbohydrates. There's only so many places your body can store those in a day. You have some storage in your muscle and you have some storage in your liver. Once those storage tanks are full, those carbohydrates turn to fat in your body. A lot of people don't know that. They think, oh, if I eat fat, it's going to turn to fat. But if you eat too many carbohydrates, they turn to fat in the body. Okay. And so the more one thing is, the more you're overeating carbohydrates, the more your body doesn't have anywhere to store them. So they will be stored as fat. The other thing that goes along with that is that when we eat carbohydrates, our body releases a hormone called insulin. This is going to go into all your blood sugar people, diabetes, all of this. When you eat carbohydrates, they go into your body, they're turned to blood sugar. Your body releases a hormone called insulin, and it's like an escort. It's like, come on, sugar, let me take you into these cells, into all these cells in the body, so that your body has energy, because your body uses sugar for energy and it uses fat for energy. Okay. But what happens is a couple things can happen. When we overeat carbohydrates, we overproduce insulin, and the cells are like, I'm tired of seeing you, insulin. You show up here all the time, and I'm going to have to block you for a while. And that's what's called insulin resistance. And so, so the cells don't accept the sugar energy well anymore. And so the body wants to keep out pumping insulin, like, get in there. And so it just creates this complete havoc in the body. And we create this blood sugar dysregulation and pre-diabetes, and it's, could be on the road to diabetes. A lot of people, it's not like you just wake up and you have diabetes. It can be a long road there. A lot of people live in a constant state of pre-diabetes. Okay. And so the other thing about insulin being present all the time, so if we're eating too many carbohydrates, insulin's present all the time. Insulin blocks fat burning. It is a hormone. It's a storage hormone. It is there to store things. And so the more it's showing up, and the more you're in storage mode, you are not in burning mode. You are not in fat burning mode. Your body cannot burn fat. It cannot burn the energy on your body when insulin is always present. That is it's really key. And I'm not getting too sciencey, but I think the more people understand the way their body works, they're like, oh, it's not just I'm eating a cookie and I'm fat, or, I can't lose weight. There's all of these, mechanisms going inside, and people want to get really hung up on calories. I don't count calories. I don't do that, because you can eat 400 calories of, cookies, and you can eat 400 calories of nuts, and the same calories, but they behave completely differently in your body. One tells your body to store, and one tells your body one is not setting off insulin in that same way. So you're not storage. So it's really like your food goes in and it tells your hormones what to do. So that's more we want to consider. Like, what am I telling my hormones to do when I eat my food?
So if you were
building my cells?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It just
No.
that piqued my interest. So if you're not counting calories and you were to tell somebody, or somebody were to ask you, how many grams of sugar should normal, and when I say normal, I mean non-diabetic individual, how many grams of sugar should a non-diabetic individual be consuming in a day? What's the recommended amount? And then you would say, okay, here's the recommended amount, but you really don't want to exceed this amount.
Right. I don't even look at it as just looking at the sugars. I look at carbohydrates, because all carbohydrates turn to sugar.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So, if you're looking on the back of something and you're looking at sugars and you're looking at what the sugars saying, what the carbohydrates say, could be very different. There could be a big gulf there, but all those carbohydrates are turning to sugar. So that's what you got to pay attention to. Okay.
Now, can I ask you about net carbs? So do you factor out the protein, or you just...
Wait, net carbs is factoring out the fiber.
I mean, the fiber, that's what I meant. Yes.
Yeah. So one thing you should know about me, I am allergic to math, number one. Anything that has to do with counting and food, it just steals my joy. And so the way that I try to teach people, I have a program, it's called Feast to Fast, and this is all the stuff that we do in there. And I like to keep it to the most minimal amount of counting possible, because I think it can make our brains too crazy.
Yeah.
But here's what if you can keep your carbohydrates under 100 grams a day, and if you need to lose weight, I would keep that closer to 50-ish, 50 grams, 75 grams, somewhere in there. I know you're like, oh my gosh, I have now a lot, you're going to be looking, you're going to like, oh my gosh, I've been eating 400 grams of carbohydrates a day.
Chelsea,
right?
I already know I am. My goodness. Woo, that would be an adjustment for me. But okay, go ahead.
Okay. Listen, here's the deal. Your body uses two forms of energy, sugar or fat. Okay? That's the two things your body will use for energy. It will always want to use sugar first, because sugar is just easier to get to. It's easier to burn. Your body doesn't need to burn fat, which is stored energy on our body, if there's always sugar present. So if there's always carbs there, it's like, oh, I'm just going to burn, I'm going to burn through this. Oh, it's still stored in the liver and the muscles. I'll just keep burning that. It has no need to really tap into the stored energy of your fat to use that. And so when you lower your carbs to a manageable range and you lower that insulin, so you're not always telling your body to store, and your body it has a natural cycle of running through that sugar energy. And then it's like, oh, we're out of sugar energy. Now what do I do? Oh, I can tap into the fat stores and start burning some of that fat for energy. So that's really the key to weight loss, is allowing your body access to burn stored energy. Stored food is what it is. Food that you can't use right away will be stored as fat.
So,
yeah, go ahead.
No, it's because your comment there brings to mind the keto diet.
Yes.
Are you an advocate for the keto diet?
Not for the general public. My official title is nutritional therapy practitioner. I'm a nutritional therapist, which means I would use certain dietary approaches in certain cases.
Okay.
So for some people, the keto diet might be appropriate. But a keto diet is a very, very high fat diet, right? In case people don't know, it's eating about 70, 80% fat and going way, way, way low carb, like keeping your carbs like 20 grams or under. And that can work, but what I find is it's not sustainable, because I'm a mom who likes to eat pie at Thanksgiving and bake cookies with my kids and maybe have a glass of wine with my girlfriend or something. Real food meets real life, and to me, that's not sustainable for most people in a long-term situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell people, if you're about to start a new diet or something, you need to project out 6 months, a year. If you don't think you can do it then, don't start it now. That's what's the yo-yo dieting. You need to find something that you can live with, that feels good. And that's why I try to teach people, be discerning about some of those carbs that you let in. I mean, do don't eat something just because it's there. Like for me, I can have Chips Ahoy in my cabinet all day long. That is not a heck yeah for me. But like a warm chocolate chip cookie out of the oven, oh yeah, I want that. That's worth it. So be discriminating and discerning and what's really, really worth it. And that's how you fit in what managing more of that carbohydrate load. So bringing that carb load down, and if you'll bring it down there, it might be a little bit slower, but your body will really get into that rhythm of using both sugar and fat for energy. That's what we want. We want metabolic flexibility. We want the body to be able to burn sugar and burn fat. Most people are stuck in sugar burning mode, and that's what we don't want.
Okay. Let's switch over, because there's another subject that's close to my heart as it pertains to dieting or nutrition. Hypertension, your blood pressure. Because to me, when I think eating healthily as it pertains to your blood pressure, you can't season your food. There's no salt, there's no nothing. And so I want to get your take on that.
Yes. Circle back, it's going to sound like the same thing I'm saying over and over. But one thing is, here's what's really interesting. When I put people through my program, my Feast to Fast program, and we're adjusting the carbs, we're lowering insulin, you release a lot of water weight. That's the first thing you usually release in any kind of diet that you're doing. If you're releasing weight, it's water weight. When there's a lot of insulin present, it will have your body hold on to water and salt, which can lead to this hypertension. Salt is not a bad food. We would die without salt. Now, a lot of people eating processed foods, canned foods, that are very high in sodium, that's a problem. But if you're eating mostly real food and you're seasoning it, with your salt and your pepper and your spices and things, that is perfectly fine. The cleaner your diet, the more you're eating real foods, that stuff is, that is going to work itself out. When, people go through my program, and if we're losing that water weight, I say, if you're on blood pressure medication, you need to check with your doctor, because your blood pressure can naturally come down by lowering your carbs, lowering your insulin, releasing a lot of that water weight, that salt, and just, that inflammation. And that's true for anybody that would be on any kind of diabetes medication as well. As you regulate that, your body, God made your body so smart, and it knows what to do when we give it what it needs, and it will start acting when you start putting those real foods in and getting a little bit more into balance about the things he put into nature, the animal foods, the plant foods. Your body knows what to do with that, and it will perform. You will see the difference when you do it.
That is wonderful. Okay. And that actually made me feel better too, because I can continue seasoning my food the way I like to do it, as long as I'm, like you said, just eating the real food.
Yeah.
I think that really comes into play. I know for some people who grew up like me, I went to church 8 days a week. I mean, we were always in church. And because of that, and even on weeknights, it was, you go straight from school to church. And because of that, you would eat out, you would have McDonald's, or you would eat something like that, or because you've been doing things for God all day long. Now, after service, here it is, it's 10, 11 o'clock at night, and you're grabbing something to eat right before you're going to bed. And so as Christians, we just have to make sure that we're being more intentional about taking care of our temple. I can really appreciate that.
Absolutely. When you don't feel good. When you don't feel well, and really just get in this really beautiful rhythm of eating what our bodies need, nourishing our bodies, feeling well, so that we can focus on the more important things like our relationship with the Lord and our blessings, and getting out there and serving in the way that we're called. We show up more fully in the world and more present when we feel well. We just do. And so that's kind of the angle I'm always coming from, is I just want to help people feel well so that they can do what God has called them to do in the world.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I can really appreciate that. I want to go to two things before we finish up, and one, I want to talk about cholesterol, regulating cholesterol. I feel like you've touched on it a good amount already, but I want to know if you have any additional things to add to how to regulate cholesterol and stay away from having high cholesterol and those types of issues.
Sure. It's all going to go back to a lot of the things that we've talked about. High cholesterol is really a product of inflammation, eating foods that inflame the body. We blame cholesterol, but we have to ask ourselves, cholesterol, I use this analogy, like, when our arteries, or we have damage in the body, cholesterol is kind of the things that comes in, and it's almost like when you're painting your wall, what's the stuff you kind of patch up your wall to make, before you paint. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like the patching up of things. And so it's not like it's a bad thing. We would die without cholesterol. But if you're having too much, you have to ask yourself, why is that happening? It's kind of like blaming the fireman for coming to the fire and spraying everything. It's not the fireman's fault and the waterman's fault. What is the fire? Why did the fire start? And so that's what we have to look at. And it's inflammation, and it's putting all of these really hard things for your body to recognize. There's so many things in our food system now that were not there, 100 years ago. And just because we put them in our body doesn't mean our body is good with that. We force it to process it because that's what we do. But anytime we're eating a lot of too much sugar and all these fake colors and all these preservatives and things, it makes the body, it wears the body down. And that high cholesterol is part of the repair mechanism. And so you want to lower that. Let me tell you, I can't get off of here without telling this to everybody. I always tell people, if there's the number one dietary advice I could give you, if you only take one thing away actually from today, and we haven't even talked about it yet, is to make sure that you're using your healthy fats and not fats that are damaging. Okay, because this is one of the things that really will drive up your cholesterol. If you're using, and this is going to shock people, a lot of people, you do not want to use things like vegetable oil, corn oil, soybean oil, which is most salad dressings are made with soybean oil, canola oil. You'll hear, canola oil is heart healthy. It's not. Cottonseed oil. These are all modern oils that are, manufactured. They're industrial oils that came way later, in the past 75-ish years or so. It's high in saturated fat, or don't eat animal fats. Those are all natural. Olives, avocados, those are all highly fat foods and oils that are natural, that have, been around since the birth of time. These industrial oils have only been around the last 75 years or so. And they're very hard on the body. They're very inflammatory. They are one of the leading causes of inflammation and in kind of that degradation of the cell into a disease state. And so that is one thing that you can go home and do, is replace, get all those oils out of your cabinet and do not use them. Flip over and read labels, because you will see soybean oil and canola and a lot of those more modern oils in everything. They are really, really bad for you. Wow. You just go old school, good old real butter, real butter. That's very, simple and made from simple ingredients that, God has given us. olive oil, avocado oil. Those are the primary oils that I use. Coconut oil, in my day. So.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I did not know that because I'm actually thinking of something right now in my refrigerator that has soybean oil in it. And I got it thinking, oh, okay, this is, like vegetarian friendly or vegan friendly and everything.
It's a plant
Yeah.
oil. Yeah. It's very deceptive marketing. That's one that, man, I really like. Drink your water, change your oils, and bring those carbs down. If you just do those three things, your body will start changing. It will be so much healthier from the inside out.
Wow. 100%. Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about taking steps, because it will be hard for somebody like me to completely change overnight. What's your recommendation about, those steps to take to make sure that I'm successful in making these lifestyle changes?
Right. We've talked about a lot today, and it can be kind of overwhelming. So I would say start with, water. Again, number one nutritional deficiency is water. Just, make sure you're kind of getting that under your belt. Like, am I getting close to that half mark?
I feel personally attacked, the fact that you keep mentioning this water. I'm just joking. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm speaking right to you. So the water, the oils, and that's something, again, you're not going to be perfect right out of the gate. And you don't put that heavy expectation on yourself. Any change, any step is going to be a better step for your body. It's going to be a relief. It's going to be lifting a little bit of that burden. That's just, we want to lift that burden from the body. And so when we're getting some water, that's just start with that, start building that up. Go in your pantry, throw out the canola. Don't say I'm going to finish. I'll wait till I finish this. It's that serious. Throw them out. Just go in there. Just do a total, pantry purge of any of those canola, vegetable, corn, anything with soybean. You want to get those out and just start replacing them with olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, some real butter in your fridge. I would start with that. And again, and then just being aware of how many carbs you're getting in the day. Even if you're not quite changing it yet, just becoming aware, flip over that package. You'll be like, whoa, this could shoot my whole, load today. Like I could blow everything, what I'm trying to shoot for in this one food. And you will start becoming discerning, like, it's not worth it. I'm not going to eat that, And so I would start with those, and it's going to be a different pace for everybody. Some people are very rip off the Band-Aid people, and some people are like, peel it off real slow.
Yeah, that's me. I'm a peel it off real slow kind of guy.
That's okay. As long as it's just about progress and not perfection. As long as you're, making some step, going in that direction of trying to improve. And what's great is when you do, and the more that you do it, the more you'll feel it. And that's just that positive reinforcement that, that innate wisdom God built in our body is like, yeah, do that. That's what I'm talking about. Water. That feels good. So yeah. I'm not sure if that's, it's not an exact for each person, but those are, again, the top three things I think are the biggest game changers to start with. And if you can start incorporating those, you're gonna see changes. You can't help but.
Okay, cool. Those are definitely things that I know that I can take away from it, and I'm sure the viewers can as well. And before we wrap up, I know I had questions for you. I just wanted to know also, was there anything that we didn't cover today that that Chelsea would normally say, this is my rule of thumb, you want to make sure that you're doing this?
I think we covered a lot. I mean, we really did cover it all. We didn't go too much into stress, but just know that stress, no matter the form, whether it's, stress from our families, from our work, from traffic, or food stress, foods that are going in and stressing our body, like all the dyes and the things, things like, wait, what is, what I have to making me deal with this? Maybe it's environmental chemicals, maybe it's lack of sleep. Those are all stressors on the body, and of course we're always, we, as Christians, we want to get into the word and find our peace in the Lord, always. And so we do that on a spiritual level, but then, we can think of what we have control over on a physical level. I can take some of that stress off by getting better sleep and not putting all weird chemical things in my body, and getting enough water. We have a lot of control over that, where sometimes we don't have control over traffic and what our family members do and things happening in our job. So, take control and ownership of what you can of the stress in your life, and make those, the things that we've talked about today will be huge in reducing that body stress. Because you're, no matter the source of stress, your body processes it in the same way with increasing cortisol. When you do that, you throw off all of these other mechanisms. It depletes your body of really important vitamins and minerals to be able to process all that cortisol. And so really managing stress is important.
Awesome. Well, Chelsea, we're appreciative for everything that you shared with us tonight. And tell the people where they can find you on social media, on your website.
Oh, sure. So everything's The Christian Nutritionist. I have a website, The Christian Nutritionist. I'm The Christian Nutritionist on Facebook and Instagram. And so, come over and find me and ask questions, and let me know that, you saw me here. I would love to know your people, from your congregation, your church, your area. I would love to know that. So
wonderful. Thank you so much. And if you guys would like to, I really encourage you to really get in contact with Chelsea. So far, my encounters with her have been all pleasant, and they're wonderful. And Chelsea just really has a beautiful spirit. She really seems to know exactly what she's talking about and will be able to help you. So check her out. If you're having issues with almost seems like anything, I would say, just eating things. But with her testimony, you could talk to her about things that you can ingest that will help with skin conditions and even infertility. I encourage you to reach out to her. Like she said, The Christian Nutritionist. All right. Thank you, everybody. And we appreciate you joining us tonight. You have a blessed night in Jesus' name. If you enjoyed this evening, we encourage you to continue sending us your questions. We understand that tonight we were not able to answer all of the questions that were submitted, but feel free to direct message us, and we will be sure to get the answers for you, or potentially even have Chelsea come and speak to us again. Thank you, and you be blessed.